The NFL wildcard round is officially over, so let's react and talk about what all happened during all the games as I'm going through them. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought from each game. And yeah, let's just go over them real quick, see what just happened in the NFL. We're going to go in chronological order, so first up we've got the Browns traveling to Houston to take on the Texans in a game that went nothing like I thought was going to happen at all. I figured that this was going to be somewhat of a close game, the Browns maybe even turning it into some sort of blowout, and we got the exact opposite of that. CJ Stroud and the Texans went into their home stadium and just shut the place down. I mean, Joe Flacco had everyone's hopes up in Cleveland, around the league really. Everyone's bringing back is Joe Flacco elite? Is he going to make a good run here for the Browns? Throws 2 pick sixes, and the Texans just walk all over to Cleveland and make this really a nothing burger as far as the press and anything like that. I mean, the Browns defense completely choked. They were the reason the Browns had such a great regular season, was because of their defense, and they let 45 get scored on them. And yeah, the offense couldn't really get humming that well. I mean, who knows what this means for Joe Flacco and his future, what that means for his overall standing as a career, something like that, right? But the Texans get a huge win against the Cleveland Browns. They're going to go to the Baltimore Ravens Stadium next weekend, and that's going to be a very fun game to watch as well. But yeah, man, this was probably one of the more, well, I would say one of the more shocking results, but there's definitely a couple others that we'll get to. And but yeah, this result for this game was something I did not expect to happen. Huge shout out to Houston and the Texans, D'Amico Ryans, Will Anderson, CJ Stroud, the 2 first-round picks from last year. I mean, this team looks really good, and they could, if not make a run this year, it looks like they're going to be solid for a couple of years down the road. So, huge win for Houston. Up next is a Saturday night game where the Kansas City Chiefs played host to the Miami Dolphins, who choked away the division in the last game of the season to the Buffalo Bills, which led them to travel to Kansas City in the fourth coldest game in NFL history. I think that's what the record's going to show. My goodness, did it look miserable out there. I mean, I'm from St. Louis. You can see some of the stuff around. And there were tickets being sold on SeatGeek for like $35, I think, the night before the game. So, like, if I wasn't busy and if I lived a little closer to Kansas City, I mean, I can handle the cold pretty well. Just throw a few layers on, just get next to some heaters or some bodies, get some body heat on you, and you'll be fine. But my goodness, on the field, did it look miserable. I mean, all those guys, any football player that goes short sleeve or no sleeve under their pads and jersey, hats off to you, man, because I could not. Like I said, I feel like I can handle the cold pretty well compared to most. That's just ridiculous. I don't ever want to pretend to be that tough or anything like that. As far as the game itself, I mean, it was just a muck and grind game for the Chiefs. They just stopped the Dolphins and their high-flying and their fast offense, and that's all they needed to do, really. I mean, I don't really know what it is, but it just seems like the style of offense that the Dolphins run just doesn't work in the playoffs. I don't know if it's because it's designed to beat up on bad teams, or if it's the fact that they really just kind of rely on the speed that they have with Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Achane, Mostert, all these guys. But whatever it is, it just hasn't worked yet. So I'm sure they'll figure it out eventually come postseason, maybe when it's above 0 degrees. But a good win for the Chiefs at home. They're going to get to travel to Buffalo. We'll get to that game here in a second. But yeah, man, great win for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, man, they're kind of inevitable when the playoffs roll around. So we'll see how far they can go. Patrick Mahomes, at least, is finally going on the road for a playoff game. And who knows, man? Who knows what's going to happen? But just a solid win for the Chiefs, and they're going to be excited to not have to play in that ever again, probably. Moving along chronologically, this should have been where I talk about the Bills and Steelers game, but that got moved because of all the craziness with the weather. So the next game on the list is the Green Bay Packers going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. And what could I say that no one else has said online about this game? I mean, this is, for a lack of a better word, embarrassing. The Dallas Cowboys had probably the best regular season over the last couple of years. Yes, they've technically gone 12-5 the last 3 years and then get bounced in the playoffs. But this team looked so much more well-rounded and more complete than the last 2 years. and going up against a Packers team that squeezed into the playoffs, going 9-8 throughout the regular season. Yes, Jordan Love is really good. Yes, their receivers were really young, and it just seemed like one of those situations where they just needed a year or two more to get some experience to where they could start challenging for an NFC Championship game or even a Super Bowl game. No one ever thought that the Packers would win, let alone in a fashion like this. I mean, they came out just running the ball so hard on the Cowboys defense that they couldn't stop it. I don't know what it is, but the Cowboys just could not stop the run. And when they did pass, Jordan Love, I mean, he went for 272 yards with 3 touchdowns. I mean, Dak Prescott, he had a pretty decent game on paper, but half of those touchdowns, 2 of those touchdowns were in garbage time. He had a pick 6 and an interception inside of his own 30. Like I said in my Super Bowl prediction, like Dak / the Cowboys have to go perfect. They can't make any mistakes. If they don't, they could win the Super Bowl. And they crapped the bed at the very start. You see Jerry Jones and his reactions throughout the entire game, questioning who's going to stay on the team. I mean, he said himself, he's like, I'm not worried about that yet. We're going to see here over the next week or two tops what exactly conspires from this playoff loss. For me, something has to change. I don't know if it's getting rid of Mike McCarthy. I don't know if it's getting rid of Dak. I don't know if it's a new GM. I don't know if it's a combination of whatever or what it's going to be. But something has to change. I mean, this is the 3rd year in a row where you've run it back with the same personnel and you get the same result. Like, for the Cowboys, they just have this aura around them of being America's team and having the most pressure of any other franchise in the NFL. So when you're not at least getting to the NFC Championship game almost every year, that's a bad look for them. So I don't know what it is that needs to change, but for me, something has to change. You can't just run it back with the same group again next year with a couple of minor tweaks that happens to every single team every year. But great win for the Packers. They're going to have to go to San Francisco and play the 49ers. I don't see that working out well, but I didn't see this working out well for them either, and they blew the doors off the Cowboys. So who knows? Who knows, right? Moving on ahead now to the Sunday night game where the Los Angeles Rams go into Detroit to play the Lions. For the first time since the early 90s, the Lions have a home playoff game. And man, did they decide to make this one interesting. You see there, 23-24. Matthew Stafford finally coming back to Detroit to play his old team. Jared Goff hosting his old team, the guy that they got rid of for Matthew Stafford, who ended up winning a Super Bowl the first year Stafford was in LA. This was a huge statement game for both of these quarterbacks, really. I think it was more for Jared Goff, more of a prove it, like, you suck it, like, stick it to him. Why'd you get rid of me? Because Matthew Stafford, he went and won a Super Bowl. Like, he did what he was traded to do. And yeah, he came back and, I mean, he had 367 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, he played great. I don't think anyone would have blamed this loss on Stafford. But man, it was destiny, dude, right? I mean, the Lions defense hadn't really been that good this year. The offense is really good. But yeah, I mean, with how close this game was, this was the only way the Lions would have won this game, right? It's just an absolute nail biter, just because of the pressure of them not winning a game in so long in the playoffs and having so many stars in the stands and everything. Just the whole situation. It was almost like destined for failure because of how much hype there was around the entire thing with, like I said, the quarterback duel, the first playoff game for the Lions, the amount of stars that were there, like the occasion could have very easily gotten to the Lions, but they didn't. It didn't get to them, and them winning by 1 point there, that at the very end, getting that first down from Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown, it was almost like poetic how that game finished, where they were able to get that first down and then take a couple of knees to drain the clock. This was easily the most anticipated game for me to watch outside of the Bills game, but man, what a game it was, right? I mean, this was awesome to watch. Now the Lions get to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's going to be another home game. So hats off to them. They get 2 playoff games at home in the same season. That's absolutely awesome. I cannot wait to see that game either and see how the Lions do in that one. Moving along now to what was originally scheduled to be the Sunday afternoon game is now the Monday afternoon game, where the Buffalo Bills hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers in a 7-2 matchup. And yeah, this was just a great game for the Bills, man. I mean, Josh Allen was unreal. You see, he had 203 passing yards for 3 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown as well. Like, All right, I don't know if this is the Google. If you Google the final score, this is what it pulls up. I don't know if this is technically including the rushing touchdown or not. I should probably, see that. But, just a great game by the Bills. The Steelers, they just couldn't stop the Bills offense, and Josh Allen didn't crap the bed. So pretty decent day out for the boys. You see Mason Rudolph stats there with 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think if you're a Steelers fan and you saw that stat line before seeing the final score, you'd say, yeah, that was a pretty decent effort by Mason Rudolph. Probably didn't lose us the game or anything like that. So that's going to be interesting to see the Steelers quarterback situation going forward, and who's going to be the number one. Is it going to be Pickett? Is it going to be Rudolph? Is it going to be someone from the outside that they bring in over the offseason? What's going to happen with Mike Tomlin? I mean, that press conference after the game, and he just kind of walked off when the lady asked him about his contract situation. Obviously, I don't think that was the right time to ask that question, but I mean, he just got the heck out of there. So who knows what's going to happen for that. As for the Bills, they get to play host to the Kansas City Chiefs next weekend. The one team that always seems to beat the Bills in the playoffs. So it's just going to be another 15-round fight. That game's going to be unreal to watch. Hosting Mahomes, can they finally do it? I'm praying they do, because my goodness, do the Bills need to at least make it to the Super Bowl and hopefully win it. I mean, for that city, for those fans, for the team, for everything. Please just do it. But that's a little bit of the fan coming out of me there. But yeah, just a great win for the Bills. Nothing too fancy. Just get the win, move on to next week. And yeah, man, the weather's going to be a lot better too. That snow was absolutely crazy to see over the whole weekend with how much snow they got, and then all the fans trying to get into the stadium, all the snow flying every time there's a touchdown or something happens, people throwing snowballs on the field. That's peak Buffalo, man. I've never been to Buffalo, but I feel like I would fit right in. Those people are just awesome. The atmosphere is great, and yeah, man, go Bills. But yeah, just survive in advance, move on to the next week, and we'll see what happens with that Chiefs-Bills game. Which brings us to the final matchup of the wild card weekend, with the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Tampa Bay, where the Buccaneers absolutely killed the Eagles. This was something that I don't think shocked a whole lot of people, because the Eagles have just been on the decline ever since, I think, the time whenever they played the Bills, whenever they beat them in overtime. Ever since, they've just been pretty bad. And so I think this was probably a more... I won't say obvious, but a more likely upset throughout the wild card games, and it happened because the Eagles, they had the better record, and the Buccaneers were in the NFC South, and how awful that division was, and how they only scored 3 field goals against the Panthers in the last week, and everything was just kind of lined up for maybe a trash football game. But the Buccaneers came out firing, man. They were at home. Those fans and the crowd got behind them. And yeah, dude, I mean, Baker Mayfield, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, compared to Jalen Hurts, 250 yards with 1 touchdown. I mean, this was just a good old-fashioned butt-whooping, really. And I don't know if the love is going to come back up for Baker Mayfield, but I've always really enjoyed watching him play, especially when he was with the Rams there for a quick second. I was able to win that game on like 48 hours notice. This whole time in Cleveland, I mean, he's just a dude, and he's so good at football too. So he's just fun to watch, and I'm excited for him to play the Lions in Detroit next week, see how they fare against that team in that environment. That's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for it. But yeah, man, great win for the Buccaneers. I mean, I don't think anyone would have expected whichever NFC South team that made it out of the division to win against the Cowboys or the Eagles, whoever ended up getting that 5 seed, right? But hey, you just got to play the team that's in front of you. And my goodness, did they ever. They put Jason Kelce into retirement, an absolute legend of the game, huge center for the sport, and just how dominant and how good he was when he played, man, right? So hats off to you, Jason Kelce. I know you'll never watch this, but what a career you've had. And yeah, dude, the final game of the wild card did not disappoint as far as the upset factor, for sure. So here's how the playoffs look as of the divisional round. You see the Houston Texans go to Baltimore, the Kansas City Chiefs go to Buffalo, the Green Bay Packers go to San Francisco, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Detroit. to play in the divisional round here in the 23-24 playoffs. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about all the games that just happened. Let me know your thoughts on these upcoming games. I'll react to all these games next week, just like I am for the wild card games. Who's gonna upset who? Who's gonna blow out what teams? What's your favorite matchup this weekend? What was your favorite game to watch last weekend? I'd greatly appreciate any and all the comments you guys have. And if you could, also leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new around here if you enjoyed it. And again, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I mean, you guys have no idea how much it means to me. I really, truly appreciate it, but I'll leave that where it's at. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Take care and peace.